to the Leading Detection podcast. This week we're joined by Geo Jolly, ex-Glovo, ex-Revolut. He's a data scientist turned PM and now the AI product leader at Veriff. So very much driving trust, and especially with biometrics. And that is exactly what we'll be talking about today. Is biometrics the answer when it comes to fraud detection? We'll be talking about the nuances, the different flavors, and what we can keep an eye on and how we can do better in fraud with biometrics. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Leading Detection podcast. And we have a great episode lined up today. We're joined by Geo Jolly, who is AI product lead at Veriff. We're going to talk about biometrics and is biometrics the answer to fraud detection? Geo, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, nice to meet you. And thank you, Matt, for this opportunity. I'm super excited to speak to your audience about what I'm doing at my work and what I think is the answer to fraud prevention.
Nice. So you are a frequent guest on podcasts. You've done a lot of event speaking. So you are a great person to hear from when talking about this space. So to start us off, the internet has a trust problem, right? So why is it important that we talk about biometrics and fraud detection today?
Yeah. I think in general, we are in a world where all the transactions and everything is automated, and you can literally do a lot of things at the comfort of the home. So I think if you look back like a decade ago, a lot of them has to be done physically at a bank or some form of interaction is there. But now, everything is digital, which also comes from a challenge where it's easier to do fraud and it's easier to bypass these processes. And that is where, financial institutions and companies that I work for started to look into like, hey, what is the best way we can think of to prevent or introduce some friction, which is not going to affect their experience, but it's still, we can validate if it's a real user or not. And one of the elements, we know that historically, sometimes certain banks use SMS, emails, etc., as a form of authentication just to ensure it's the same person. But then they realize it's not working. It's easier to bypass SMS and emails. And then they started thinking, hey, we need something of the user, something personal of them, and we need to ensure it's the same person. And that's where, biometrics started to come in, where it could be your voice, it could be your selfie, or it could be your fingerprint. So some way we need to ensure it's the same person who is doing the transaction or who is interacting with the account that has onboarded to the financial institution. And I think that's the shift we are seeing, and that's where biometrics came into the space.
The barrier to entry, right, is getting lower and lower. That someone just sat in their office upstairs or even just on the sofa can start committing fraud. There's how-tos on TikTok and YouTube. It is scary how easy it is to just get started now.
Yeah, 100%. And there's also this, like, I have seen, like, certain times people also using videos of someone else from social media or to get into an account. Or it could be fraud rings, like, there are like a group of fraudsters with different devices, forcing people to do verification just to onboard into a financial institution and commit all the fraud. So the barrier to entry is super low. So we need to have very stricter controls there as well.
Yeah, and everyone appreciates it, right? So even the users are understanding that fraud is a huge problem. No one wants to get scammed.
Yeah.
But there is that fine line between user experience and the guardrails that we're putting in place. We all have experienced the text messages and the emails, and everyone's quite comfortable with those and kind of accept them now. What's made them now not strong enough? Why are they no longer good enough?
Yeah, the reality with email and SMS is one example I could think of is many times there are devices that could be stolen from you. I know in UK it's a big problem right now to theft of phones in the streets, but stolen devices can happen, or someone could get access into your personal email, or which means that the fraudster who has access to your emails can now, once he does or they do some search on your email, could get more information about your account details, etc. And then this means that someone who has just access to email can access to a lot of things. So emails or SMS has become like a single point of failure. So
Right.
let's say this is where, initial approach was, hey, this is our one factor of authentication where someone is to ensure it's the person who we are supposed to be interacting with
Mm.
purely by email. But now I think that's where I think in the digital world, they started to say, maybe this is not going to work because we have seen instances where emails and SMS could be bypassed much easier. And once they gain access to that, it's much easier to bypass the controls. And that is where digital banks started to think we need more multi-layered approach where
Mm.
we need to think about biometrics, device information, access patterns, everything as a together as one piece, and then to authenticate people.
Yeah, once it's compromised, right? There's no way of getting that back. So yeah, a solution for this is biometric. So when we talk about biometrics, what do we mean? What are the different flavors? What are the different areas of biometrics?
Yeah, I mean, well, the traditional way that we all are used to is we all are used to taking selfies.
Yeah.
So I think facial biometrics is very common.
Mm.
And it can be any form of, our physical traits that can be called as biometrics. If you recall, I think in before Face ID became a thing, I think fingerprint was also very popular in mobile devices.
Yeah.
So fingerprint is another form of biometrics. It's not used in banking much because it's very hard right now to find devices that has fingerprint globally, while everyone
Mm.
has a selfie. So selfie is the most popular one that I have seen. While for certain controls like border control or, in regular investigation or crime scenarios, they are more reliant on fingerprint based
Mm.
analysis. So especially in forensic world, fingerprint is still the big thing. Then we also have seen iris scanning, which is also similar to also quite popular in border control and forensics world, where they also ensure your iris scanning is done and it's a legit human being. And there are certain companies that rely strongly on iris. Like I don't know if you heard about someone like World, which is like
Yeah.
they have iris scanners across the world. You scan this iris, and that becomes your biometric trait or unique identifier of you as a
Mm.
human being, right? So each of them has its own pros and cons. While selfies are the most accessible ones, then certainly we have also seen in the industry of customer support or even in banking, some people use voice, like voice based
Mm.
biometrics as well. So these are the four I could think of, but I think it can also expand into more biometrics as technology evolves.
And what are the what are the use cases for AI in this area? So you're an AI product lead, something that's very close to the work you do. So how is AI supporting biometrics and putting all these in place and increasing security?
Yeah, I mean, AI is very key component, and it's always been the one of the, let's say, foundational building blocks in all these technologies, right? So I can go into like maybe specifics just around facial biometrics.
Yeah.
Even for us to build a good biometric system, we need to have understanding of what does a face look like. So where, when the selfie is taken, we need to understand if where is the face. So we call it face detection.
Hmm.
So we try to detect the landmarks from the selfie image, like eyes, nose, mouth, etc. So we have built computer vision AI models that are
Mm.
capable of detecting faces in wide variety of conditions, like a high quality lighting, low quality lighting, and then different devices, webcams, mobile cams, all of them have different quality scenarios as
Mm.
well. And we also need to ensure we are not biased. We need to
Yeah.
ensure skin tone is important, age is important. So we have to take into account this wide array of context,
Hmm.
and all this is taken into account with the AI system that has multiple layers of models involved in it. And once it's detected, we need to ensure it's a real face, but it's not like something shown from a mobile device or it's a mask or a cutout. So there we have our fraud prevention based biometric selfie
Hmm.
AI systems where it's capable of saying, hey, this is a real human being, this is not, right? Deepfakes, etc., comes in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a different layers of models that is part of our biometric system. And All of them is actually built with a lot of complex engineering, but everything foundational is AI here.
So it must be consistent. The selfies must be updating regularly because the face changes, right? I could shave my beard. I could go on holiday, get a tan. I don't know, have an eye injury. How does this work? Is this not playing into the hands of those who want to commit fraud?
It could. It's good. That's a very good question. So sometimes, let's say you onboarded to a bank, let's say 5 years ago, and your
Yeah.
face was something else, and over time your face changed, right?
Yeah.
So what we also we do is what we call is once the initial onboarding is done, we have something like a very fundamental biometric template.
Mm-hmm.
Think this of like a lot of numbers that is kind of representing who you are as a person. We don't store the images or anything. It's just a bunch of numbers, right?
Hmm.
Then maybe in 6 months, you come back and do a session or a authentication with your selfie. Then we can update those numbers with new information. Okay,
Right.
math phase has a bit changed. Okay, we can combine those numbers into creating a new number or a new template. So over time, these templates get updated. So that is one way we ensure that it's not like we are still comparing against someone onboarded 10 years ago. And the other one is we also have trained our models to our systems to understand based on various historical images of same person over years to teach the model that, hey, this is the same person, how this person has evolved. So you should still give a high confidence or a high match score. So this way we don't allow or reject people just because they're got aged over time, right? So we have trained our systems to do that as well. So that is another component that we do as well when we develop these face matching components.
So does that get embedded into the model? So aging as a process. So imagine someone who looked very similar to me but younger was
Yeah,
putting their face in it. That'd trigger a higher risk score. It could be a potential
it
account
could.
takeover, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So it could trigger, but what I'm trying to say is also that the system is also capable of understanding, you know, you would potentially age.
Mm-hmm.
And even if your facial characteristics have changed a bit, it is capable of understanding that. Then there's also this challenge you mentioned that if you're identical twin, let's say
Yeah.
you're an identical twin, at that time, most of the times we don't make this decision of someone is they are just based on biometrics. We also try to look into other data like device,
Mm.
access patterns, etc. So that's where this multi-layering approach in fraud prevention comes in, where we need to ensure that it's just not the selfie biometric matching. We also need to ensure the access patterns and
Mm.
where they are accessing from. So this might be a bit different to your identical twin. So
Yeah.
we might be able to reject that, hey, this is not the Matt that we onboarded and he has aged. The faces is matching is similar, but other information is not matching. So we have to decline this person giving the access.
So it's just one stage in a multi-step process.
Correct.
Is that very common? I mean, identical twins committing identity fraud?
Um,
Is
Not
that
very
something we see a
common,
lot?
but not very common, but yes, we have seen scenarios where I think if you really want to, it could happen.
Mm.
If you play around a bit with lighting, like lighting is a bit dark, and it's not the faces is not super visible. Most of the times, that's where the AI systems can struggle when the quality factors can be manipulated. So we also ensure that we only accept and process certain quality of selfie images, etc. But
Mm.
this is like not very frequent, but when it happens, yes, it can be a big problem for the financial institution because it doesn't matter how big is, how small is, even one fraud can lead to a huge amount of losses for them.
Yeah. You mentioned lighting there. So if someone hasn't got good lighting in a room, and would the models just refuse because they can't get enough data points?
So one part of the user experience we build in is we also have what we call like, a capture process. You might have done it for various banks or
Mm.
anywhere this capture process is embedded, we do give a feedback to the user that, hey, can you move to a place where there's a bit of lighting? So we do some on-device or capture process feedback for the user that this way they ensure they can understand that hey, you need to go to a place where there's a bit more lighting. Your face is not
Hmm.
visible for us. So this feedback gives a bit more experience to the user and bit more guidance for the user to capture a good quality selfie. So
Mm.
that is embedded in the process of capturing the selfie. So we don't outright reject it. We give an opportunity for the user to take a good quality selfie.
Mm.
We only like decline the user when we know it's fraudulent. So
Right. And it sounds like a solid solution, right? Biometrics, it's my face, it's me, it must be me if it all works well. So what are the downfalls, if any? What are the potential fall points?
one of the big fault points is, as I mentioned, similar to SMS and emails, people just rely on biometrics as just biometrics without
Mm.
taking into account other context. So this can also create a single point of failure. One example I could think of is if you're just relying on face, it is very easy for today to create a face of someone similar.
Mm.
So I can take your picture of Matt from your LinkedIn and then ask OpenAI or Google to create a video of you or a selfie image that would look very good like you and
Hmm.
submit for a verification process and get bypassed, right? So at that time, you need to also check for where is the image coming from? Where is the device this is coming from? We also need to ensure that we don't allow someone to
Mm.
bypass this verification process. We call it proof of personhood. We need to ensure that its human presence is there during verification process. And for that, it's not just the image or the selfie or etc., but
Mm.
we have a wide array of context, which would include device, your network, your access patterns, the IP address, maybe your device status, and which
Mm.
SDK you are using, etc. So all this information can be useful, and I think that is the one of the biggest pitfall we have seen where people see this just as a selfie problem, but in
Yeah.
reality,
Because could it make it redundant with how easy it is and how simple it is to create these false documents, false selfies? Does it almost, yeah,
yeah, I
become
think
redundant?
when we speak to like, people who are having done identity verification process or, fraud prevention controls, and when they try to do it by themselves without any historical knowledge, we have seen this happening and then they come going to experts, to say, hey, we are facing a huge problem in fraud because we tried to do this control, but it's not effective. And certain times, yes, I think it can happen that these controls wouldn't be effective if you don't implement it in like with understanding the risk associated with it.
And when we talk about biometric, is there any other, we spoke about it briefly at the start, are there any other biometric methods that are becoming more and more popular alongside kind of face biometrics? Are there any other methods that we're starting to look into?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I have seen in the industry, like some people also asking voice. So let's say when you're onboarding, it's no
Hmm.
longer selfie. You also ask to record or say a phrase like, hey, I am Geo. I want to open a bank account here, or I am doing the verification process by myself. So what they are in doing here is to create this another layer apart from your selfie, also a template of your voice. So this way, when they are authenticating the user who is coming back or who is trying to do a high value transaction or sending money to someone, if there is a risk, they can ask the user to say the same phrase or also use to check the biometrics of the selfie as well. Again, this is the factoring, in fact, multi-layering strategy that I mentioned, where you add another layer and voice is getting quite popular. And
Mm.
I have seen this getting popular in the world of customer support as well. Like, where when you are interacting with customer support of a
Yeah,
bank,
yeah.
they're asking you to say some phrase. This way, the AI systems can check if the phrase is the same as what they were saying during the onboarding and the voice matches as well.
Mm. So, I mean, we're going to get a almost biometric profile, it sounds. We're going to have selfies, we're going to have voice. I mean, most smartphones have a fingerprint
Yeah.
option. Do you think it's becoming too much? Do you think people will push back a little bit with having all this information, or is it just a reality of the world that we live in?
I think I have seen the pushback, and I think in biometrics world, it is important for this privacy preserving approach. So that is where, we are not like thinking about a world where you have someone has a profile of who Geo is, who his biometrics is, how does he sound like,
Mm.
etc. It's more about one element is, as I mentioned, we are not storing any more numbers, images or videos, etc. It's just a bunch of numbers. So this way, no one can understand what it really means. So that is one way we see this, and the other one is in terms of privacy. We try to do a lot of them on device,
Hmm.
especially giving the feedback to the user, hey, move to better lighting, can you capture a better selfie? That privacy preserving approach is getting very popular, where a lot of these processing is done on device and it doesn't leave the device of the user. So it's not sent into a cloud server or where this is stored and profiled. All this biometric data and this profiling and authenticity lives within the device. So that is also getting popular. And I think that is also the way to go when it comes to privacy preserving approach.
How are you? Because you're product lead, right? So you have to consider the privacy, the technology side, and also the user experience. So how are you juggling all that? Because it's a sensitive topic, right? You've
Yeah.
got three different areas all coming to a head. How are you juggling it?
First of all, I think when I think all these things that you mentioned right now are like pillars in my, let's say, product area. So one key pillar for me is user experience. The other key pillar for me is privacy. The third key pillar for me is also around fraud prevention and how we can get better at fraud prevention, right?
Hmm.
So first thing is, of course, the privacy element is extremely important, where we are not going to make a lot of trade-offs here to ensure that we are not violating any regulations. We comply to local regulations, or in EU it's the GDPR, and in the US it depends on the state. But there
Yeah.
are, for instance, in Illinois or Texas, they have their own specific directive when how do you handle processing, etc. So we try to comply to each and the local jurisdiction and regulation. There is no trade-off here, and the main trade-off that I juggle between is around user experience and fraud prevention. For instance, I think you can get super good at fraud prevention by creating a very terrible experience for the users. So you can ask for a lot of information. Some people, even during biometrics, you can ask people to smile or tilt your head or flash colors at their face and ask them to say a lot of things. So you can create like a theater of things just to get your security as top notch, right? So this is where we are trying to do most of my work, is to understand how can I keep better user experience, especially I'm serving the product to people like very youngsters who are like, accessing gaming platforms or
Yeah.
social media, to pensioners who wants to access funds from their pension fund. So we need to ensure the experience is like easy and accessible, but the fraud prevention is not trade-off. So I think that's where most of my time goes into ensure that the fraud prevention controls that we build in is not creating friction for the user. And that's where most of the approaches we do are risk based. So it's not like by default we will have a fraud prevention control that's universal for everyone.
Hmm.
But as the user interacts, and if we see the risk is higher, we will create a bit more friction to the user. So that's where risk-based approaches is more viable for us. And the second one is around layering strategy that I mentioned, where we rely on multiple signals. So we don't need many times the user to do that explicitly for us, but we can infer from the device and the access patterns, hey, this is fraudulent behavior, and or this is genuine behavior.
Because how does that work when you do research? Because the user, they want the highest level of fraud. They
Yeah.
don't necessarily know how they want it, and they want as least friction, I'm
Yeah.
presuming. So there's a disparity there. So how are you developing new products and different features that improves the user experience, but also keeps the fraud prevention high?
Yeah, like traditional machine learning models and development process, I think experimentation is very key here. Like you don't release something, 100% by day one. Given we have a lot of data that we already know what does fraudulent behavior look like,
Mm.
what does a genuine behavior look like. We do quantified approaches where we try to experiment and see, hey, if we are implementing this specific control, what will be the conversion rate or the user experience would look like, and how much impact it is going to have on fraud. If we make some changes on the user experience, we again does another experiment to see, hey, how does it affect the onboarding conversion journey? So I would say the approach here is quite straightforward. It's data driven. We try to experiment with a sample of users to see and get feedback and do those learnings and take those learnings into our development process. This way, we ensure that we are not blindly shipping products that just prevents fraud, or we believe it ships fraud and it may not. So what we want to ensure is we measure every step and every change, and we only do the changes gradually instead of 100% rollout. So this way we ensure any trade-offs in user experience and fraud is detected early, and if there is a significant delta, we don't make those changes.
Nice. And you're an AI product lead. Do you see the human remain in the loop when we talk about biometric fraud detection, or could it get to a point where it's so strong you've got the face biometrics, voice, fingerprint, ID, location, previous behavior analytics? Could it get to a point where we don't need a human decision ultimately for the action?
I I think we are already in a stage where we already do 100% automated decisions. To be very transparent here, so there is no problem in doing that. This trade off of whether do we want a fully automated decision or a human in the loop comes from purely risk appetite. So we recommend, if your user journey or the process where you implement biometrics is a low risk, or your risk appetite is like not super, if the risk appetite is like not like concerning there, we say you can have a fully automated process, and this is purely the decision of the person who is buying or implementing the biometric solutions.
Yeah.
There are certain scenarios where I still believe, I think human in the loop can be very powerful and fully automated. The decision that the AI is doing is a recommendation, and the human can make the final decision to say, we reviewed all the information and it is a trustworthy, and we can now use those biometrics data as to verify this person. It's again going back to that point of, it's purely based on the risk of the user. But today, AI can already make 100% automated decisions. And I've been doing that for some time. So it's not difficult at all. It goes back to the factor that whether the risk is something that the organizations are willing to take or not. One other element of the question you asked around, how accurate it is highly accurate. But since all these models are statistical, it's purely based on numbers. There is impossible to say that my AI system is 100% correct. So that one, I'm still not confident we will be getting there in the coming years. That is where I think this feedback mechanism of having humans reviewing it, quality controls, etc., is still important in this in this highly regulated processes.
I mean, humans aren't 100% either, right?
Neither, yes, correct.
So what are your predictions then? Because we're talking about banks, fintechs. The amount of payments that are going to be happening is just going to get even bigger across different platforms, different types. And we're going to start seeing stable coins introduced to normal payments. Who knows if crypto becomes a daily use for payments as well. So we're going to need support. We're going to need AI tools. What are your predictions in probably the next 12 months or so that the adoption, the uptake of tools such as AI, biometric screening?
Yeah, we already see, like in financial tech, especially around in banking and financial services industry, in that vertical, where they are already a good adoption of biometrics. Now I think they will be thinking about how can we do this multimodality, maybe not just selfie. They might be thinking about adding, voice or other modalities to just to ensure there's more security. So I think that will be one of the things that I could see coming very soon in the industry. The second one is, we know everyone is implementing their own digital IDs. Like I know in the UK there was some friction around it. In EU it's getting a standard, so that will also be one part of key part of the journey, where it could be privacy preserving. It could stay in the device of the person, and biometrics can be like you do like a Face ID in iPhone or taking a selfie, and it lives within the device. So there's zero knowledge proof. So
Mm.
like you don't know this was done. It will be just like a token to say that, hey, this person's biometric was verified on the device and
Mm.
it's the same person based on the digital ID. So those kind of standards will become more and more normal. All those privacy concerns that we discussed earlier could be mitigated in that on-device approach. So I think these are the two things that I think is going to be very vital here.
And this is on the defense side, very much protecting. So
Yeah.
you know who's getting hold of your money, and this is very much on the sender side. What about on the receiver side? Do you think there's going to be an uptake in biometrics for all accounts? So social media accounts, other kind of transaction accounts. Do you think this would happen, or are social media just going to be like, no, it's not our problem?
There are regulations that are making and forcing a lot of social media to do biometrics. I know in UK with the age verification needs that now you need to do some form of verification, and now many of them is doing selfie based checks for
Hmm.
age verification. So regulations can dictate a lot of these things, and biometrics could become the norm. On the other hand, I do see that, let's say, let's say, in adult content platforms or etc., they are not keen on asking their users to take a selfie. So they will think about other approaches, like for instance in Google, and they are trying to develop a methodology based on users' search patterns and what they are searching on YouTube, what they are watching, to predict the age. So these kind of outside of biometric based age verifications and things can also come into play based on the customers and based on the type of the industry. So in financial services and high risk industries, I still believe that biometrics is going to be the normal.
Mm.
While in social media and dating, etc., yes, there will be a subset that will adopt biometrics, but there will be a subset where they will look for alternatives where it's not biometrics because the user doesn't want to show their face. So how can I ensure it's the same? It's a human being. It's above 18. They have the right to access this content
Mm.
uh, without the facial biometrics of this person or asking an ID document. So these kind of other ways of verifying age could get better, could
Mm.
be something that would become popular as well.
It's such a fine line, isn't it? Because we're getting towards a point where there is protection, and then
Yeah,
you've got kind of the big brother watching everything you do to protect us, but
yeah,
there's privacy issues, right?
100%. Yeah.
Would people be able to opt out? Would they be able to live a digital life without say if I was like, right, I want to be offline. Do you think that
100% offline, I don't see that's gonna happening. Like, unless finance banking is only thing you do and you do everything physically in the in the branch. I think even for I don't see myself. I would love to be offline sometimes, but maybe for a week. Then for me to do a financial transaction, I still need to open my mobile device and authenticate that, right? So for me to get an appointment in a buy bank, it would take some time. So I would rather do that at the comfort. So I don't see us being in a world where you can be like, 100% digital free. Like you still
Mm.
have to use your device or laptop at some point to do some of these transactions and authentication. Again, it really depends on your lifestyle. If you're someone who just uses cash every day and you can live by it, great. I think you don't need you can have a digital free life. But if you are doing some kind of international transfers or some form of work that involves anything digital, yes, you will need to have some of the authorizations being done using your phone or
yeah.
using your laptops.
So the dream of being a farmer, living off the land, is still there, but outside of that, there's not much other options.
Yeah, it is still there. It is still there, but it also comes from, it can also be dangerous for you as well because we have seen like people who are very digital free also can be the target for fraud as
Mm.
well.
It gets you every way and anywhere, doesn't it? Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Gio. I mean, I can't let you go before asking what are you What are you seeing at the moment that's coming up that you're interested in, you're excited about?
I'm super excited about, as much as AI can be dangerous, as much as AI can also be, make my life a lot difficult in fraud prevention. There is also a lot of development that I see can help us to accelerate faster in development of these models and AI systems itself. For instance, we can develop now a biometric system by asking AI to generate a lot of data for us, like, create fight deepfakes. We can create deepfakes on our own and use to build systems to detect those. So I think with the developments in AI, I think we can also accelerate a lot of our development. That is something I'm excited about. And the second one I'm super excited about is also like how the world is acknowledging the importance of trust and the importance of in the world of agentic AI, etc., where it is important and it is vital. And I am seeing that very keen interest in the world. Hey, how can I prevent deepfakes? How can I prevent attacks from AIs? So there is general concern in the industry, and that is very positive. That people are being proactive and they want to solve this problem of trust on a larger scale today. So I think that's very exciting as well.
So, I mean, yeah, agentic AI as a whole, another topic in the space, and I'm sure we can save that for next time. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us, Gio. If people want to connect, maybe what future events you're speaking at, or any more podcasts, where can they find you, or what have you got coming up?
Yeah, I'll be in Amsterdam next week for Money Live. So where I'll be speaking about a similar topic with one of our customers around the importance of authentication, etc. So that's the next event planned. But yeah, you will see me active in this domain and sharing my thoughts in LinkedIn as well. Yeah. But it's also a pleasure from my side as well, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Certainly someone to keep an eye on and keep close to the work you're doing. You do some great stuff. So thank you for joining us, and to listeners, until next time, ciao for now.
Thank you.